Good afternoon, folks, and welcome to episode 237 of the Sticks in the Six podcast. As always, I'm your host, Andrew Forbes, here with my co host, Peter Barricchini. And before we get into all the good stuff, just a quick word from our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. The Stanley Cup playoffs are here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, has a new customer offer. When the ice gets coldest, the best players in the world show you exactly who they are. Playoff warriors turn it up round by round, and DraftKings turns it up with them from the first round all the way to the Stanley Cup final. Bet player props, bet live from the opening faceoff to the final horn. Every moment matters. New DraftKings customers bet just $5 and you'll get $100 in bonus bets instantly.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-MY-RESET. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 and over in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. Limited time offer.
Well, with that out of the way, Peter, episode 237. The Leafs continue to make headlines this offseason, but before we get into all that fun stuff, how you doing this week, my friend?
Yeah, a bit of a quiet week, but also it's the weather's kicking into summertime right now. It's definitely feels like summer's around the corner. It was just this past weekend we were getting like all of our like patio like porch gear out for like our lawn chairs and everything like that to just kick back, go outside, enjoy, cleaned all that up, and yeah, looked good for a couple days, but now we're going back to chilly weather, so it's like still up in the air. But overall, just watching hockey nonstop, just watching the playoffs. Got a glimpse of the craziness that was the QMJHL playoffs, where the Moncton Wildcats blew that 4-0 lead in Game 5 and then lost in Game 6. The back and forth between Montreal and Buffalo. The conference finals begin tonight with Colorado, Vegas, and we're going to get to our picks right now. No shortage of talk with sports right now, especially when it comes to hockey. And as you mentioned with the Leafs, a little quiet, but still some like interesting tidbits here and there, which I know we talked about the head coaching debate last week or the previous week before. But now another name has entered in contention, and it's one that many have wanted for some time. And I'm glad that, there's at least some discussion right now.
Yeah, we're going to get to that in just a second. I told you I was going to touch on the weather off the top of the show here because last night had the kids over, had the kids at home, and my mother-in-law was over, and we heard this roaring starting outside. So we opened the door, and sure as shit, about maybe half a kilometer away from the house, we could see the funnel clouds starting. First time ever I can say that a storm has had me pick up my kids, and this was more of like a protective dad move, but pick up the kids, take them downstairs to the lowest part of the house, grab the cat, take them down, and just lock ourselves down there for a few minutes, and it moved in fast. I told you I took a little drive around the neighborhood this morning. Trees have been uprooted. Weather Ontario or Weather Canada or whatever still hasn't actually said that a tornado touched down. But given I drove to one of the local greenhouses after dropping my son off at school today, and there's a tree laying across the road, completely uprooted, and it's taken down a power line. There's people north of my house, like one block, that have been without power since last night. The first time ever I can say that I was like, holy shit, we might be in the heart of a tornado right now.
Storm kind of thing, yeah.
But fortunately it seems like anybody who's watched Twister knows that they look for open land to land on. So we're just across the road from major farmland there. So we were fortunate that nothing happened. Everything's intact here in my neighborhood.
That's great.
But it was crazy, and I'm the sicko who last night after dinner and the kids are in bed and I sat down, my wife went to bed, and I turn on Twister. I turn on Twister, and I'm like,
You're
fuck, man, I gotta watch this.
the way you got to watch it at that point.
I said to my wife afterwards, I was like, you know what I'm gonna watch after this, right? And she's like, yeah, you're like, we're both kind of sick in the sense that like we're intrigued by that kind of stuff. So,
Cruel sense of
yeah,
humor right there.
turned it on. Good old Helen Hunt, chasing down the storms, and yeah, definitely a sick kind of mindset. But, anyways, we're here to talk hockey, and something I should have noted last episode, and we completely bypassed it. And I'm kind of sick with myself for doing it. But the PWHL expanded this summer with 4 new teams:
Yes.
San Jose, Vegas, Hamilton, which I'm absolutely pumped for,
Yeah.
and then who am I missing here? The
Detroit.
4th team, Detroit, right in the middle of it. Yeah. So, exciting news for the PWHL, and I'm hoping we can get one of our former PWHL guests back on to talk about the growth and expansion and
the rapid growth, not just the growth itself, but how quick we were able to get 4 teams right away. Because, with Vancouver and Seattle, it was kind of expected 2 teams were going to come, but I thought it'd be like a gradual expansion, 2, 2, 2.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting 4 right away. That's absolutely insane.
And starting next season, which is the crazy part too. So that's a very exciting news. Obviously, the first ever All Canadian Walter Cup final as well. Montreal looking good there. So that's like all that conversation needs to come up as well, and we're gonna hopefully, like I said, get one of our former PWHL guests on. And I got Musa over here on the live TikTok. Got us to 10K likes on live TikTok. So shout out Musa, appreciate it. And yeah, if you're not watching on YouTube, you should be watching on TikTok. If you're not watching on TikTok, make sure you jump over to YouTube and hit that subscribe button. You get to see both of us on a weekly basis and listen to our takes on hockey. But you mentioned it. There's a lot going on right now in terms of the Leafs coaching search. Of course, the Stanley Cup playoffs are right in the heart of things right now. So why don't we kick it off with our conference final picks with it starting tonight? Many are referring to this final 4 as like the Leafs nightmare, right? Like you've got Vegas and Mitch Marner. You don't cheer for that, or I mean, maybe you do. I don't know.
You could.
You've got Freddie Anderson and the Carolina Hurricanes, a guy who, on a regular basis, let the Leafs down come playoff time. You've got the Montreal Canadiens, which, as a Leaf fan, to cheer for Montreal almost hurts inside, but obviously you have your reasons.
Yeah.
And I have I genuinely like Dobish. I think like his
that post game interview, man.
He's got me
like,
fired up.
Let's go for another
man.
40 more. The adrenaline's kicking with this guy right now.
He's got me fired up, and then of course Nick Suzuki, being a London boy, he's got me fired up as well. So I'm kind of intrigued by them. And then of course Nazem Kadri and the Colorado Avalanche, and
don't forget Nick Waugh too.
Nick Waugh,
there's
trying
some
to get it done
to the
as
Leafs
well.
In these final 4 right now.
So also worth noting, unless something crazy were to happen, I believe this is the 45th. Is it the 45th straight year that a former teammate of Jaromir Jagr is going to be in the final?
Probably sounds about right.
I think it's something along those lines. It's crazy. It's a crazy. I'm going to find that stat, but it's something along that line.
I was about to say, who would be the former player in right now?
It was. Oh my gosh. I'll find it. I'm going to find this when we...
Okay.
Brett Kulak. Brett Kulak is one of the guys.
No way.
Yeah, Brett Kulak is one of the guys. I'd have to find the other one, but there's potential for a Jagr teammate to be in the Cup final again.
Wow. I see Brett Kulak would be a name I would not forget.
No, see, and that's one that kind of
would think of.
Yeah, it definitely escapes me, but anyways... So, with that said, conference finals, Vegas, Colorado, they start tonight. Mitch Marner seems to be a Conn Smythe candidate. Vegas making news on the coaching front. We'll talk about that in just a second. But if you're sitting there, you're getting ready for this series, Colorado, Vegas, who do you have? And how many games are we seeing?
Well, for one, I just wish Mitch Marner would have played like this in a Maple Leaf uniform. I mean, simple as that. I know we talked about this before. Great on him that he's finding success, but the Maple Leafs have, or Maple Leaf fans have every right to be kind of upset given how things went in the past. So good on Mitch to get to this point, but I feel like Colorado is still the team to beat. I know I said this in the first two rounds where Vegas's goaltending situation kind of scares me. I really don't like it, but you can make the argument that both have the offensive depth. I mean, Brett Howden's come up out of nowhere. Mitch Marner's dishing him nonstop, and he's potting goals left, right, and center. Colorado's getting the depth as well that they need for up and down the lineup. But I know Cale Makar is going to be out for game one, and I know that he was skating and he may be dealing with something, may not be as serious, but hard to go against the Avs right now, given how dominant they have been in the first two rounds. I know they lost one game, but, you know, with McKinnon, Makar, injury-wise, Natchez, Landeskog, Kadri, up and down the lineup. They still got depth. They still got players that could step up in a big way. And I know losing Makar for game one is a bit problematic, but I would still put not necessarily put my money on Colorado, but I have firm belief that Colorado could make the Stanley Cup final. Not only that, they're my pick to win it all anyway, so there's no bias there at all. And I think we would see, I want to say it's going to go 6 or 7. I think this is going to be a really grinded out matchup between two solid teams in the top 2 tier in the West at this point. So I'm going to say Colorado toss up between 6 or 7 games.
I like it. I got to stick with Colorado. I've taken, like I told you before, I took out multiple futures on Colorado. So I had them to win it mid-season. I have them to win it now. This doesn't take anything away from what Mitch is doing for Vegas. Doesn't take anything away from what Brett Howden's doing. It doesn't take anything away from what John Tortorella is doing as a coach for the Vegas Golden Knights. It's simply that Colorado has been a favorite for a long time. It's a tough team to beat. They've got all the pieces. They've got Nate, who's an absolute playoff dog.
I was just about to say, when he goes beast mode, or when that dog comes out, he is one tough guy to stop.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important to note that absolutely Mitch Marner's having an incredible playoffs. I don't think anybody's going to take that away from him. You can't take that away from him. He's playing well. I do think there's something to be said about the conversation where the teams he's going up against are definitely not nearly as physical as the teams he went up against in the East. Mm-hmm. I think he's had a little bit more of an easier path in the West, and that's maybe that's part of the reason why he went to the West. I mean, you get that opportunity to go up and win a cup and get a ring and what have you.
But now you have a tougher team that can still play a grinded out style in Colorado.
Absolutely. And eventually the West will play the East, and you're going to get a taste of that as well. So I think that needs to be taken into consideration. At the same time, the one comment I saw where it was Leaf fans must be hating themselves for letting Mitch walk or what have you. What he's doing now doesn't take away from the lack of what he did when he was in Toronto. And I think that's important to note. It doesn't alter your legacy. It creates a new legacy. So what he's doing in Vegas is definitely impressive. But we
still have every right to complain that there was none of this type of killer instinct in any of the playoffs that he played in.
You also can't tell me that he didn't mail it in for games 5, 6, and 7 in the last. He could have rewrote his own destiny. There was a distancing from Mitch Marner and the Maple Leafs a long time before that final game. Mm-hmm. And that's the important takeaway here. Is not that this isn't a criticism of Mitch Marner and how he played the game. This is a criticism that he didn't give 110% the way that he said he did game in and game out in that final season with the Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fair assessment. Mm-hmm. So congratulations to him for making the conference final. I still think he's going to get knocked out. And since we're on the topic of Vegas, we might as well bring it up.
Yeah.
This whole debacle going on with the lack of press availability, shutting the room to the media. Mitch jumping out there with Howden saying, we got 10 minutes or Torts is going to drive off without us. Torts not being available, and then like Kelly McCrimmon coming out and being like,
we don't want this distraction.
yeah, we don't want
Unlike the
this
coaching
distraction.
search.
Like, let's confine this for a sec, okay?
Let's go bit by bit because there's a lot to unpack.
There's a lot to unwrap here. The Vegas Golden Knights are fucking scumbags. Okay, let's start with that.
They're the most pettiest organization in the league right now.
This is an organization that needed. Let's start with Tortorella. Okay, This is an organization that should be doing everything they can to continue to push the momentum of the fan base they've created over the last 5 to 6 years. If you watch the Utah series, how many people traded in their Vegas jerseys for Utah jerseys outside of the game, it's very evident that people jumped on the bandwagon when it happened and then decided afterwards that they're going to jump off. And to not make yourself available to the media after the fact was questionable. It was a questionable move. Now, for McCrimmon to come out afterwards and say, that was on us. We should find ways to be more in touch with our fan base. Like, tell me that you're not feeding us a load of shit without telling me you're not feeding us a load of shit. Like the NHL, and we'll get into this. Like the NHL saying that or finding them $100,000 and a second round pick. I hope to hell that the NHL sticks with that and doesn't like. There's already talk that Foley went over there and like tried to talk about the second round pick, and there's a potential that there could be a different. They could overturn that. Like this is exactly what we talk about with the Department of Player Safety. There needs to be consistency, and they genuinely need to stand by their original decision. This team has continuously found ways to try and bend the rules in their favor. I mean, we talk about Mark Stone consistently
just because they're the
being
newest
off.
organization.
So I genuinely hope the NHL sticks with it and holds on to their second round pick, and like, I don't care what they do with it. Just skip the pick maybe. I genuinely don't care, but they need to set a tone, and this is a perfect way to do it.
Yeah, and the way that I agree that Kelly McCrimmon's like presser was absolutely, there was barely any like resentment towards it. It was just basically him coming out and saying, yeah, we're sorry and everything like that. Like he admitted it, but it was just like there was no kind of like any remorse or whatever to the fact that he denied the media from doing their job. That to me is the biggest thing in all of this. And we could talk about how the punishment could be seen as harsh with $100K and a second round pick. It's a rule, and someone brought this up and I retweeted it too. There's something in the CBA where the teams and the media have to be made available, and there has to be those comments, and it's part of within the contract where they need to be made available. You cannot shut them out because that is basically controlling a narrative, and you're basically gatekeeping of what people are going to say right now. Now, instead of having to go out and talk to players about a win, you're going to be getting stories about how the Vegas media is not doing their job and how they're basically twisting a narrative around that. I don't even know what the narrative is or the reasoning to locking them out when they had just won a series, basically. And in doing all that, it just creates more of a distraction. And Kelly McCrimmon said, we didn't want the coaching search or anything else to be a distraction. Meanwhile, what the hell is this going on right now? You're at the center of the hockey universe right now for your media team or the media not being able to do their job properly. And we go back to what happened with the Barrie Colts too. Their head coach and Keyshawn Aitchison. I love Cash. I think he's going to be a phenomenal player. But for him and the head coach to go out and just say, like repeating the same line over and over again and basically not letting the media get any substance of a quote whatsoever, you're denying them of doing their job. And again, it comes back to this too. What's the point of doing this? the fact that it's in the contract, and it's also the fact that this is not the first time that this has happened where, Vegas is trying to control a narrative. Look what happened with Carter Hart when they signed him, and how there was good, like, certain limitations on questions that could be asked because of everything surrounding him. And not only that, Torts has had a history of not getting along with the media itself. It stems back to be Tampa, New York, Vancouver, you name it. He has a long list of history of not getting along with the media. And overall, too, I just think that they were warned multiple times before. This isn't the first time. And the fact that this is like warning number 2, we're going to instill this punishment. The fact that people are actually complaining about this punishment when it's a rule or there's a contract in the CBA where teams have to allow them entrance into the locker room for comments and everything like that. If you break the rule, you suffer the consequences. There's no other way around that. It's the same thing as when you go into a job. If you don't do your job properly, what's going to happen? You're going to get talked to. You're going to get, a certain warning or a certain limitation of, you get the strike, 3 strikes, and you're basically fired. This is basically it right now. This is strike number 2 or a harsh strike number 1, where you got a warning. Now we're going to instill fines on you. You keep doing this, the fines are going to get even more, harsh. And I have no problem with that. And the league better stick with this. And the way that Kelly McCrimmon said, it kind of felt like it was inevitable where they got caught. And I hope the NHL doesn't have that remorse or like is genuine in the acknowledgement that, okay, they're sorry, we'll lessen the fine a bit. They better stick to it, and they better not let back, even if it is one of Gary's teams right now. I do not care if it's Vegas. I do not care if it was Toronto. If it was Toronto, keep the 2nd round pick. You broke the rule.
Yeah, I mean, I picture the NHL like quietly on draft day, just like sliding the 2nd round pick back to Vegas.
We're gonna
like,
let Vegas pick again just because we feel sorry.
But regardless, like I had that conversation with somebody on X. They said, well, the NHL doesn't force referees to have media availability, and so I wrote back and I said, it's actually in the CBA that NHL teams and their players must be made available at certain points throughout the season for media availability. Like there's nothing like that for the refs. So let's stick to one argument first. This is like, your prototypical like argument. Throw something else in there to try and light the fire a little bit more, but stick to the argument. The fact is, players and coaches are to be made available, especially after playoff games, when the media is looking for some way to cover the team. That's how you build this business. The business is built on people reading stories or seeing videos of players and coaches talking about the game that happened and what went wrong and what they could have done better, and what, even if you give one word answers or I'm just here so I don't get fined, or
yeah.
you know what I'm saying, like
yeah.
Marshawn Lynch that shit. Like I don't care. The fact is, it needed to have, like, the fact that Torts pulled this, and like Torts is like your main mouthpiece for like getting quotes, like, and he's going to be the one that sits it out. It's just, that to me was insane. Now, in saying that, there's more to the Vegas story, right? Like, there's this nobody's allowed to talk to Bruce Cassidy about their open head coaching job.
That's even just as dumb.
I want to talk about this for a sec, because David Alter, actually, friend of the show, David Alter, posted something I think it was earlier this morning, that got me thinking. And
about the whole thing where they fired him, bringing in a new coach, hanging on to his rights, and
hiring him again for next season.
I don't know how. But listen, I understand the theory. It does sound something shady like Vegas would do.
It didn't even cross my mind until I saw Alter's tweet, because they've denied Edmonton talking to him. Nothing on Toronto yet, but they denied who's the third team that they denied. They denied, anyways. Regardless, they denied a few other teams from talking to Bruce Cassidy, and McCrimmon's response in the media availability, ironically, was that they don't want distractions while they're playing in the playoffs. And LA, thanks, Spike. Yes,
Really.
it was
Thanks,
LA.
Mike.
Um, and the crazy part about that is that there would be no distraction if you let teams talk to
Yeah.
your ex coach. But then Alter's tweet came in, and it made me think like, what are the because Tortorella's only signed to the end of the year,
Yeah.
right? And me personally, I don't see him being a full season coach again for Vegas.
Yeah.
I just don't I don't see it. Um, so then where do you go? And if you do that, what does that say to the dressing room that you're bringing Bruce Cassidy back in?
hmm And then
So
not only that, they were kind of average with Bruce Cassidy regardless.
yeah, yeah. So, anyways, the what's even more frustrating about the whole situation is that to get Tortorella, they needed permission from Philly,
hmm
and they got permission from Philly to get Tortorella, and now they won't give permission to anybody else that for
Yeah.
Bruce Cassidy.
So like,
And
what's Vegas
McCurry,
trying to do to prove that they're the top dog right now? Like, you get to control what teams should do in order if they want to poach, not necessarily poach, but like bring somebody that you have onto their staff.
but not only that, his
Like,
contract is still on your books unless another team hires him.
yeah,
So
what
that's why
that's the
alters
conspiracy. That's where the conspiracy comes in.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it 100% makes sense, and and I'm glad you brought up that tweet because it would not surprise me in the least that Vegas would actually do that because they are such a scummy organization to do something like that.
Yeah, I mean it was so intriguing when I read that. I'm like, holy shit, like
Yeah,
David's on
gears are
this.
turning.
He's
Yeah,
on it and this could absolutely be happening. But then it does certainly bring up the question mark of like what it would be like in the room afterwards and all that kind of stuff. So
it would definitely be awkward too.
I just yeah, because what if they go? What if they go and get a ring? Let's play.
What if they actually win it all, fire Tortorella, bring back Cassidy, and then it's just like, well, we won with our coach that we had for like 18 games of the season.
Everyone's got a ring except for Bruce Cassidy
Yeah.
from the 2025-26 Stanley Cup.
Like, holy hell! Talk about like a shot below the belt, really.
Oh, anyway, so that's your Vegas Gold Knights segment here on Sticks in the Six, and yeah, as you can see in the title there, the Vegas debacle continues,
Yeah.
and you know what? Just for that, hockey karma and hockey gods have their way of figuring things out. They're
Coming
going to
back.
lose this series. They're
Yeah.
going to lose this series
Mhm.
because you're fucking around,
Yeah.
right? And that's
We
that's
don't
part
want
of the
any
problem.
distractions. Well, guess what? You got distractions.
You're creating the major
Yeah.
distraction.
Talk
This is-
about
you know what?
Talk about
This-
the bright lights of Vegas, man.
We're going full tin cap here. Going full tin cap. We're going full conspiracy. This is all a distraction just to get their second round pick back.
Probably. Who knows? Would not surprise. And
Oh.
all this for a second round pick. It's not even a first. And people are complaining that it's a harsh punishment for a second round pick. Like, come on.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, on the other side of the playoffs, we got obviously the Carolina Hurricanes and the Montreal Canadiens. Montreal Canadiens become the youngest team since the 1993 Montreal Canadiens to make it to the conference final, and they are looking good. Dobish is on a heater. Their stars haven't even come out to play yet, aside from maybe Slavkovsky. But you still have Cole Hudson, who's been kind of average. You've got
Lane Hudson.
Suzuki. Sorry, what did I say?
Lane.
Cole.
Cole, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Too many Hudsons. Too many brothers.
That's it.
in the
We need
league
to take
right
some
now.
Hudsons out of the league. Lane Hudson has looked relatively average. Suzuki, Caulfield, those guys have not gotten going yet. Demidov just started picking up at the tail end of the last series here.
And
But-
let's not forget about Alex Newhook, who has come up clutch. especially in
Absolute
this
dog.
series.
I wrote it after he scored the overtime winner.
Yeah.
Absolute dog. You know what? I'm going to shout out to Alex Newhook because that guy made me money as well. I took him for 2 shots in every period of I want to say game 4 or 5. And this
delivered.
kid came through every single
Oh,
period.
God.
It was sickening. It was just sickening. I just like the 2-shot god. Also I knew his mom was in attendance, so like that certainly helped. Like you're putting it on for mom,
Yeah.
but anyways, Carolina, Montreal, What do you got for me?
Ah, man, my head is saying Carolina in 6. I'm not discrediting Montreal or what they did to this point. I think that, to be honest, I think Montreal does still have a chance to beat Carolina because of who they took down. And again, you look at who Montreal came face to face with: Tampa Bay, Buffalo, 1-2 in the East or in the Atlantic. Carolina had to come through, although they were the top team, came through with against Ottawa and Philadelphia. I mean, let's not compare apples to oranges, but like Tampa and Buffalo are in a whole different league compared to Ottawa and Philadelphia. And I know Philadelphia was dealing with injuries, but back-to-back, sweeps. Carolina was dominating. They had goaltenders that kept them in there, at least had a fighting chance, but they kept putting pressure after pressure after pressure nonstop. They were the dominant team. Montreal got outplayed, especially in some parts of their series against Tampa Bay and Buffalo, especially in game 7s, and they still came out and found a way to win. So to me, I am not counting out Montreal to try and take this. So in my head, I am saying Carolina in 6, but in my heart too, for my own personal reasons, I still have a soft spot for Montreal. I don't care what anybody else thinks. If I'm on a Leaf podcast or whatever, I'm picking Carolina, but I am not discounting out Montreal and what they could do because of Dobish, because of guys like Newhook, depth guys stepping up, and they've come up at critical moments where they needed a big play, and they have actually got it. So I'm going to say Carolina in 6, but Montreal is still a threat.
Montreal Canadiens have won 2 Game 7s in the last 16 days.
Mm-hmm. They're riding high. Momentum's on their side.
The Leafs haven't won a Game 7 in 22 years, I believe.
Yeah.
Call me crazy. Call me crazy.
Not going to call you crazy, man, because I know what you're thinking.
I think Montreal does it.
Yeah.
I think Montreal is going to the Cup.
It's absolutely possible.
What's crazier is I'm going 6 games. I think they do it in 6 games.
Game 7. Okay.
I think Montreal does it in 6 games. And part of the reason I choose Montreal is because what I would do for a Montreal-Colorado final and for Colorado to walk into Montreal in games 2 and games 3 and 4 wearing Quebec Nordiques jerseys.
Ooh, yeah. Okay.
What a fucking throwback that would be.
See, I was thinking the same thing because I know I picked Carolina. I would like the Nordique Whalers throwback jerseys played.
Imagine that final. Imagine that final.
Yeah.
So
you're locking that in?
Yeah, I'm locking that in. I got Montreal in 6. I got Colorado in 6. And if that happens, like the NHL better step on some toes and say you guys are wearing the Nordiques jerseys for games.
Wear
3
whatever
and 4.
jersey you want in this series. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's what I envision here, and I think Montreal does it. I still have Colorado winning the Cup once we get to that pick, but I mean, what it would do for Canada to get a Canadian team, and it would hurt my insides to watch Montreal go on to the Cup, but fuck, it would be amazing. It would be what a run they would be on.
I could have sworn that the stat that I saw, the Montreal Canadiens are the youngest team since the last time that they actually made the Stanley Cup final, and they were still the youngest team when they won it back in 93.
25.8. And
so if that's an omen to everything.
In 93, do you know what their average age was?
I think it was like 26, 27.
25.8.
Okay, just slightly over.
No, today's team
25.
Average is 25.8.
There you go. Okay, so it's stars are aligning right now.
Could Montreal go on to win the Cup? Could Montreal do it? God. Take everybody down in the West, in the East. Could this team get it done? Martin St. Louis.
I was about to ask you, like, I know we're a Leaf podcast or whatever, and there's going to be this whole entire faux pas with Leaf fans cheering for Montreal, but is there going to be a genuine interest in cheering for Montreal to win the Cup and just bring the Stanley Cup to Canada just to stick it to Gary Bettman?
If we didn't have this public platform, there'd be nothing wrong with it. We would get absolutely chewed
Yeah.
We would get
Yep.
absolutely chewed
That's valid.
if yeah. Um, that said, it would be nuts. It would be
Mhm.
nuts. Montreal would be nuts. Another fun stat for you before we close out the conversation about the conference finals. Um, Martin St. Louis, as a player and as a coach, 8-2 in Game Sevens, 6-2 as a player, 2-0 as a coach. So a fun little
That's
stat there
clutch.
for you.
That's clutch.
Yeah, I think I retweeted it and was like legendary. This
Yeah.
guy's an absolute legend. Anyways, other news. Knobloch is out in Edmonton. There's some conversation, and I saw it today, which is frightening. But there's some conversation that Edmonton has considered because they've been denied Bruce Cassidy.
Craig Berube.
No, they've asked to
Talk.
talk to they've
Yeah.
asked to talk to Berube, but there is some consideration around Mike Babcock as well.
Oh, had they not learned their lesson?
It's in a headline for the Edmonton Journal. I'm not making this shit up.
It,
It's in a headline for the Edmonton Journal.
Mike Babcock is going to come in and he's going to get fired before he steps foot again because he's going to do something stupid again.
He's going to be posting pictures of like what Draisaitl did in Germany over his like summer break and like
Yeah.
this is not what we do here in it. Anyways,
Like, I mean, it's frightening that they're going after, or at least considering Berube, considering how the team regressed big time after they went to the semifinals last year.
I think Berube is one of the oldest active available coaches too.
Yeah.
He's 60.
And it's nothing against him. He is a great guy, but man, his system just doesn't work. And if you're going to Edmonton and if you're relying on basically Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl carrying the team on their back night in, night out, and you expect them to play a complete game when, they kind of do, but if you're going to ask them to take on more than what they're carrying without any depth, that team's going nowhere.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's yeah. I think McDavid walks. I do.
Yeah.
I think he walks.
Well, it's funny. I've had this joke where Berube takes a 69 goal scorer in Austin Matthews and turns him to like a third line shutdown center. What's going to happen with McDavid?
He's gonna be a 50-point guy. 50-point third liner.
50-point third liner, basically.
Yeah, no, it's not.
I'm not saying it'll happen, but it's a joke that's going around right now.
Yeah, no, I don't know if it'd be pretty in Edmonton, but the other one out, Adam Foote in Vancouver. There's a lot of belief that Vancouver is looking at Manny Malhotra with the possibility of Caleb Malhotra being a top 5 pick and Vancouver getting the opportunity to select him. Very interesting situation unfolding in Vancouver. With that said, though, we got a couple Leaf topics before we jump ship here. Of course, we got to talk about CJ's article about the Leafs are listening to trade options for everyone except for Austin Matthews. Same guy that wrote, and no disrespect to CJ, but same guy that wrote that Austin Matthews might not be there to start the year in 26, 27, and now he's going back and saying that he's the only one that they're not listening to. Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, we got Jordan over in the comments wants Nylander.
He's already seen Nylander.
What are your thoughts on this? Can you trade people like Easton Cowan and Ben Danford and Matthew Knies? Should those guys be available if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs?
If there's a right deal and you could basically get an improvement on what you have with those guys, absolutely. I think Knies is a little bit more hard pressed to do because of the fact that he had the season that he had with a bit of an injury. And it was nagging him all year. And the fact that he was almost a point per game, again, he took a big step, 66 and 79 games. If he was healthy, I'm pretty sure he would have been well above a point per game. As a power forward, as a guy that could get shots on net, he can hit, he can get goals. If you're getting a top line right shot defender, I think that's the only player I would ever trade Matthew Knies for. And it's got to be top pair. It can't be a top prospect that's the right shot. It's got to be someone that's established right now. Top right-handed shot defenseman that's kind of young, mobile. I would do that in a heartbeat. Then again, losing Knies is going to hurt because those are the type of players that you need. and the Maple Leafs finally have him on a cheap contract. And I think that's where you could get a little bit more for Matthew Knies, as CJ has also said that I think it was on Overdrive where he said that one guy or a couple people that he talked to said that he would pay more for Knies than he would for Matthews. Interesting, but kind of fair because of the contract. It's extremely valuable right now. So with Knies, I would do that. With Danford and Cowan, if you're getting a solid roster player back that's a little bit more impactful, again, you can't deny that. You can't overlook that and say that you're going to stick with those two guys, because especially with prospects too, if you could always find an improvement in an area, you always do it. And if you could get an improvement in another area or an improvement on those two guys, again, I would do it. The fact that he said that no one is untouchable aside from Matthews, I think that's important to look at, because you already have Hildeby and Akhtiyamov in the system looking good in the Marlies and on this playoff run right now. I think that there's a future, or a near possible future, where those are your two starters, or 1A, 1B, and you move on from both Stolarz and Wall. I think you could get a relatively okay return for Wall despite not having a good world championship right now.
He's getting shelled.
There are teams that need a goaltender, though. So I think if you're the Maple Leafs, you hold all the cards right now saying, hey, you need a goaltender. I have one. I want a little bit more, and ask for a little bit of an increase in a price, basically on a return. So you could work that with Wall. Stolarz is a bit of a different situation because he's injured, but at some point, I think you move on from him in another year or two. Again, Jordan already mentioned, or he already said, Knies for Harley. Would you do that? Considering that Harley had kind of a down year, I'm still high on Thomas Harley. I think he can bounce back, but I would maybe just, you know what? It would be an ideal world that they could also throw in Maverick Bork. Don't know if that gets it done or pushes it over, but if it's also Harley and Bork for Knies and maybe a second round pick, I would probably do that. Maybe a little bit asking too much. I think maybe at least need to add in maybe a late round pick as well. Who knows? I would still like Thomas Harley, but now that you're also looking at, William Nylander basically on the move, and if he can waive his no trade clause, you got to worry about that first. Because if Chaika goes in and be like, hey, we're kind of the same thing that you would have that conversation with Riley. We have a different future. Doesn't involve you. We want you to waive your no move. We got this destination set. What do you do? So again, the thing is, there are a lot of no move clauses and a lot of workarounds that need to happen. But I think you got to look at possibly Knies and your two goalies as major trade chips right now.
McKenna, Matthews, and Bork. What a line that would be.
Mm-hmm.
Just going back on a couple comments here. I agree. I think McKenna, Cowan, and Knies right now are untouchables.
Yeah, I would agree on that sentiment too, despite me saying you got to consider it. Yeah.
Spike goes on to say, I'd like to see this roster and a new coach before trading off the pieces. I agree with that to an extent. I think like if you've already decided that players like, let's say, for example, players like Riley are already kind of pushed their way out, and that's the route you have to go, then I think you make that move. But some of the star players, like for me, call me crazy, but I think Matthew Knies right now, with the season he had injured, he saw an improvement offensively. I don't move him. I'm not even debating that right now.
It's
even for like a Thomas Harley.
Tough call.
It is. I agree with Jordan here too, that he thinks that Wall is still a good player.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of conversation about what Akhtiyamov has done in the AHL playoffs and how that could kind of push Dennis Hildeby as a major trade chip, which I think needs to be considered. I think you do have a bit of a logjam in net, and I think that's kind of where the Leafs are at right now. But yeah, I don't think you move too much, and I think Chaika's going to try and make his mark. But I think, given that you have the first overall pick, you can do that very easily without having to do too much.
Yeah.
Jordan says Stolarz would be a good tandem in Allmark. Yeah, Stolarz. Yeah. So long as he can stay healthy, it's once his rhythm is kind of interrupted, he tends to take a step back in terms of what his ability is, and that's what we saw this past season. Last season, he stayed healthy for the majority of the season, and he played well, and we got to see what a healthy Stolarz looked like. So I think that's important to note as well.
I
But
also
yeah,
think too, in terms of movement, I know you said that, Chaika doesn't want to change too much. I think that the first two moves he's got to make is move Riley. I think that's a given. I think there's been a mutual or some sort of an understanding right now between the fan base and everyone else. Everyone's on common ground. You got to move on from Riley, and also you got to move on from Brandon Carlo. I think there's too much history with Carlo right now, given what happened this year and how we won the pick, that you need a fresh start, and he needs a fresh start as well. So I think if you move on from those two defenders as his first move, I think that will be a good start depending on the return.
yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you. Wall and Hildeby, I still think Akhtiamov's smaller, but I like Akhtiamov has
Still
impressed
like
me
6'1",
since the
6'2",
day they
yeah.
drafted him. He's so mobile in net and just calm, and he's able to make some saves that maybe some other tendies aren't.
He's got
I think,
personality too.
and he's got personality.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of personality. You need that swagger. You need look at Dobesh, like perfect example of it. Um, Lastly, we kind of buried the lead on this episode, but lastly, um, the Leafs obviously are in a head coaching, like, I don't know what you want to call it, conundrum, where they're trying to find the right piece. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of speculation that the Leafs and Chaika want to go in a direction of a new face, not the old boys club, somebody that understands the growth of these young players now. And we talked about it the past couple episodes that one of the options has to be David Carle.
Mm-hmm.
And now, in saying that, all the reports around David Carle are that he's got a young family, he wants to keep them kind of rooted, and that makes sense. I mean, he's coaching well at the NCAA level. He's had incredible numbers. The University of Denver has been a perennial contender. But nonetheless, the Leafs and John Chaika have made the move to have a conversation. From all reports, the first conversation went incredibly well. Now, I think there's one tweet I saw where it said it's the first time ever that a coach has interviewed a team for the job, right? Rather than the team interviewing the coach. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's an interesting point to make. At the end of the day, this is David Carle's decision.
I was about to say, if it's a coach interviewing the team, this is an outside perspective that he's looking at through his window right now.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's interesting. We don't have much more on it at this point, and obviously when we do, there will be whether it's a quick episode or a quick short on YouTube. But I want to get your opinion on this. Like, if you're like, I mean, at this point, you put the ball in his court. What are your thoughts on giving a coach that much kind of pull and decision making in terms of, hey, this is a really good opportunity. Consider the players that you're going to have the opportunity to coach. We would love to have you as the coach. The ball's in your court. What's your thought on that process?
Well, number one, he 3 NCAA titles and 2 back-to-back World Junior Golds. Dude already has an impressive resume right now. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. And the fact that sometimes going the conventional route and regurgitating the same coaches over and over again, you may land one that actually works and you find that fit. Now you're going to get an outside voice and an outside person that's not in the league, that has his own philosophy, his own rules, his own game plan and everything. And he's going to establish it at the NHL level. I know that college and junior hockey is completely different than it is here, but he has coached younger and older players too. I think that's a good thing to look at, especially if you're looking at David Carle as a prime target. I do think that getting that fresh voice and fresh face is always a different way of looking at it. Because how many times have we seen, we've seen general managers go or get jobs even at failed opportunity. Same thing with coaches, jobs after failed opportunity.
Recycling.
It's got to stop. And I think now Toronto's got to establish themselves with their own voice, kind of like what Tampa Bay did with John Cooper, kind of what Colorado did with Jared Bednar. And they have stuck around for years and had success.
Mm-hmm.
So I think at some point, if the Maple Leafs hire Carle and at least get back into a playoff spot, that's a little bit of momentum on your side right there. You take that and you run with it. you build off that. And I think Carle is the type of coach where if you have some sort of success, you will build off of that. And the fact that the conversation was good and they're expected to have another one kind of leads me to believe that, okay, no definitive favorite right now, but I think he may have just pulled himself away just a little bit more kind of thing. Yes, there are other options out there. Yes, you could probably go a Jay Woodcroft. You could go a Chris Knobloch. You could go Todd Nelson, who is a fantastic, who has a fantastic resume himself, and also is an assistant coach in Pittsburgh. Again, not a head coaching job, but he had success at a lower level, and he's working his way to that. Still a fresh face.
There's some belief too that Derek Lalonde is getting some consideration as well.
Yeah, and I saw that, and our good former co-host, friend of the show, and song for the podcast, Alex Hobson, said that, yeah, I don't think Leafs Nation is going to overreact to that at all, right? I mean, let's face it, they're doing their due diligence like they've always said. Mm-hmm. And not only that, too, I believe Lalonde and Carle, I think, coached at one point, too, no?
I'd have to look at that. I
can't remember that. I'm going to put that as an asterisk as a possibility, or I think I may have misread that at some point with a different coach. So either way, forget I probably said that. But Derek Lalonde, he's already with the organization. Yeah, you probably just got to interview an internal candidate at some point. It's the basic process. I'm not going to look too much into that because a lot of the, not necessarily defensive woes were on him because there are a lot of injuries, but let's face it, the defense is not that great. I would be hard pressed if he's actually the favorite. I think that there's still other candidates out there, even if they've coached in the NHL just a little bit like Woodcroft and Knobloch. I think I would take them over Lalonde, but Carle himself has a possibility, and the fact that they've talked to him, and the fact that he was also on Leaf Morning Take 2, and he spoke highly of Gavin McKenna. Mm-hmm. So I think we'll see a head coach post NHL draft, or if they have Carle in place before they even select Gavin McKenna, I think you know the direction that they're going to go because he spoke highly of him. I don't know where I'm going with this, but it just kind of feels like he's the guy right now. And I don't want to over speculate because I don't have any insider connection or whatever. I'm just reading it based off what everyone else is off the news. But the fact that I saw that, and that was a really good sign for both management and Carle too, is should he like to go to the NHL level? Because he said time and time again that he's happy where he is, and rightfully so. But at the same time, right now, if he feels that he's ready for it, that's an entirely different conversation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And at the end of the day, if you can he's one of the most coveted NCAA coaches right now. Yeah. So just to give you an idea, since 2018-19, 208 wins, 85 losses, 20 overtime losses for a .696 win percentage. Mm-hmm. Pretty incredible numbers, elite numbers at the NCAA level. Like I said, University of Denver has been perennial contender. The Leafs have to take that into consideration when they look at that, and obviously they have, and they're, like you said, they're doing their due diligence. I'd be shocked if they don't push hard for this. Get a new face in there, somebody who can grow with the young players as well. At the end of the day, this organization needs a change, and it can't come from the old boys club.
And not only that, too, let's not forget that some prospects or players that have played for David Carle are already drafted to NHL teams. Remember what I said about Eric Polkoff last week about a potential San Jose trade? Mm-hmm. Who's to say that, Carle would be like, yeah, I want this guy on my team. He played well for me. Mm-hmm. You got that connection right now where you have players already drafted and getting that leg up in the NHL. Carle could be like, hey, come back over here.
Yeah, no, 100%. And, like we said off the top of the show, the Leafs continue to steal headlines this offseason. I should say these playoffs with the idea of them potentially getting a guy like David Carle. That's certainly a conversation piece for folks like you and I. That said, the conference final in the West does kick off tonight. A lot of hockey still left to be played. We'll be covering it, as always, each and every week here at the Sticks and the Six podcast on the Hockey Podcast Network. As always, Peter, it's been a good week. We're gonna have a lot more to talk about next week on episode 238. But for now, episode 237. Make sure you check out our friends over at the Hockey Podcast Network as well as DraftKings. Use code THPN. Check out SeatGeek for $20 off your first purchase. Promo code in the show description on YouTube, as well as BioSteel for 20% off your online order here with the Sticks in the Six podcast. For Peter and myself, that's all we got this week for episode 237. We leave it with our friend and our former co-host, Alex Hobson, and his hit.